Welcome back everyone to another episode of UK Space News. This past week saw the biggest rocket in history, Starship, finally take flight. Virgin Orbit managed to stave off death one more week. Not so great news for Orbex, Juice progress updates, and the next lunar lander. Plenty to dive into for sure, so stick around and let's get going.
Alright, lift off and the clock has started.
Alright everyone, we kick things off with the biggest rocket launch in history. That's right, Starship, the behemoth rocket from SpaceX, finally took to the skies on Thursday the 20th of April. Just look at that monster take flight as 10 million pounds of thrust propelled it upwards. Now, watching the launch, I'm not sure what was louder, the sound of 30 Raptor engines or the SpaceX team. I did say 30 Raptor engines because it soon became apparent that 3 of the Raptors either failed to ignite or were damaged by that Vesuvian-like amount of concrete thrown into the air. Several more Raptors failed mid-flight as we saw the flameouts, as well as another explosion a little further up on Booster 7, postulated to possibly be that hydraulic manifold responsible for the gimbling of the main center core of Raptor engines. That being said, the world watched in awe for around 4 majestic minutes as we marvelled at the fully stacked Starship make it from the pad all the way through max Q, the point during ascent when the greatest amount of dynamic forces are exerted on the vehicle. We then saw Starship enter into a cartwheel type roll, and the commentators pointed out that this appeared to be the start of SpaceX's unique stage separation, where it flips over and uses centrifugal force to power the upper stage of the rocket off the booster. Starship got to around about 39 kilometers in altitude, which was a little bit lower than intended. And things didn't go quite to plan, as Starship then completed several full rotations before falling back to Earth and the flight termination system was triggered. Excitement was always guaranteed, and boy did we get plenty. In the aftermath of that historic launch, pictures began to emerge of the damage caused at the orbital launch mount, with a huge trench dug into the concrete thanks to the downward forces from the exhaust gases at liftoff. We also got videos of equipment thrown around like ragdolls, NASA spaceflight had their camera car turned inside out, and we even saw chunks of concrete thrown into the ocean off the Texas coast. SpaceX have definitely got their work cut out for them to repair the damage at Stage 0, with a second flight attempt slated by Elon Musk for within the next few months. Still, we can't take away from the achievement, and we'll be watching the replays for quite some time to come. How did you rate that in terms of the most exciting launch of recent times? Let me know in the comments below. Next, and I can't quite believe I'm still talking about these guys, but yes, Virgin Orbit have managed to stave off death's icy grip for yet another week. This past week saw them continue work on their next rocket, and they even got Cosmic Girl out for another flight. What's left of the company officials are still hopeful that they'll be able to complete another launch later this year, despite still being stuck in the quagmire of bankruptcy. 2 things have also emerged from this past week. First, they are officially up for sale. As if we didn't already know that yet, they have officially announced it via their website in a corporate release. They have slated a date of May the 4th for potential bidders to submit those applications, with a closing date of sale set for May the 14th. No formal bidders are publicly known at this stage, but we'll keep you up to date with that as and when we get the news. Finally, Virgin Orbit announced that they have completed their investigation into the Start Me Up failure. Following a rigorous test campaign, all indicators are that the most probable cause for the rocket failure was indeed a dislodged fuel filter in the second stage propulsion system, which travelled into the actual Newton 4 upper stage engine. A redesigned fuel filter has been tested, and those tests seemingly confirmed that they have solved the problem. Whether or not we actually get to see that new part in flight remains to be seen, but Virgin Orbit are still surprising us at this point, so who really knows? Now, Scottish rocket manufacturer Orbex announced a little bit of bad news this week. CEO Chris Larmer is stepping down from his position to, quote, allow the company to move to the next phase of development. No further information has been made available for the full reasons behind this, but it would seem the company viewed him as a barrier to progress. Truthfully, we don't mention Orbex much on this channel because, quite frankly, there's not much to report on. Orbex are really rather quite secretive with their operations, and despite being the most well-funded of the UK rocket companies that we have, I find this a really strange position. Sure, we've got a few engine tests and they've built a really nice full-scale model of the Orbex Prime, which is their only intended rocket vehicle at this point in time. We've got a stalled progress at the Sutherland spaceport in Scotland, and all indicators are that they're planning on moving most of the production to their new facility in Denmark. Now, there is some speculation that Chris Larmer, having a military background, is largely responsible for the level of secrecy around this company. So who knows actually, potentially this has a benefit and that they will move in a new direction and a more open direction. I'm going to be reaching out to the company to see if we can get a little bit of insight for what they have planned for later this year. I certainly hope it involves much more of the flamey stuff. Next, a little over a week ago, ESA launched their Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer mission. Yes, that's right, Juice finally left the Earth to start its 8-year mission to the Jupiter system, where it's going to explore 3 of its icy moons, Ganymede, Callisto, and Europa. Now, we've had some great images from the spacecraft this past week, and all indications are that Juice is performing as expected. Deployment of the various antennae and probes is well underway, with completion expected around day 13 to 17. If you want to keep track of Juice's progress, I highly recommend that you either check out ESA's web TV or the official Juice tracker, as you can see on screen, and I've added a link to the description below. You'll be able to see exactly where Juice is in the solar system at any point in time during its full mission duration. You can also keep up to date via the official ESA Juice Twitter account. It gives you day-to-day progress updates on where the spacecraft is and what's happening during the course of its life. You can also keep up to date via ESA's new ESA Juice Bar Twitter account. Yep, that's a bit of a mouthful, but it gives you a handy visual update. It updates around about once per month. As you can see, it's currently sitting at 0%, but it gives you a nice visual tracker for the spacecraft, and I'll be sure to include that in future videos. Finally, this past week, the first commercial lunar lander, iSpace's Hakuto R mission, is all set to land on the moon, with its first attempt coming on April the 25th. This is a really exciting, as it's the first privately owned craft to attempt a lunar landing. The lander was launched into space in December 2022 aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. It's carrying 2 different robotic moon rovers, one called Rashid, built by the UAE's space agency, and one called Sora Q, built by JAXA. It's also carrying an experiment to test out a unique solid-state battery. If all goes well, iSpace have been contracted as part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program to deliver cargo to the far side of the moon in 2025. So another exciting week in spaceflight for sure, and one we'll be talking about for a long time to come. I just want to take a minute to say welcome and thank you to all the new subscribers to this channel, and if you did like this video, do consider taking that thumb below. If you're not already subscribed, do consider doing so and hit the notification bell for future UK space news updates. I really do appreciate it every single time, and it goes a long way to helping this channel out with that pesky YouTube algorithm. I've been Tom June, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.